I'm Kevin Atlas, and I'm bringing some of the most successful, most inspirational human beings on this planet into your classrooms. They beat the odds, they overcame adversity, and through that, they found a way to believe. I've partnered with Varsity Brands to provide the answers, the blueprints. I have this heart that bleeds for the youth of this country, so I fight as a soldier for change, and I want us all to learn to lead, and not just to elevate ourselves, but to elevate each other. I'm looking for students nationwide to take action from what they learned from this series. This is how the world changes. It starts with you. Jacob Blake, Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Breonna Taylor, and most recognizable, George Floyd. Police brutality is only a small portion of the social inequality issue in the United States, a great nation who has been preaching equality and freedom for all for decades. Don't get me wrong, I believe the United States is the greatest country on earth. Not because we're a global economic leader, not because we're a defender of democracy around the world, but because the United States of America strives to uphold freedom for people of every race and religion. As a nation, we welcome all cultures and contributions. That's awesome. But what makes America so special is that by seeing the very worst, has also allowed us to see the very best in each other. Though it's heartbreaking 2020, that we are still struggling with ignorance and racism, when we're supposed to be setting an example for the rest of the world. Enough is enough. I want to focus not on a country divided, but peer into the ways we can come together, inspiring massive action towards equality for all. But I genuinely want to focus on the word action. It's one thing to believe in something is right, it's another thing to stand up and take action for those beliefs. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We as a country are in dire need of leaders, those who take major action standing up for what is right. I'm going to introduce you to one of these leaders, someone I'm honored to call a friend, whose life motto is doers do. My man Jason Green is a man who has lived action his whole life, building an impressive resume. After graduating Washington University, he acquired his law degree from Yale. He created an incredibly successful company out of Baltimore called SkillSmart. I'm sure you would agree Jason is a very impressive human who checks all the boxes for success, someone who we can all be inspired by. But the most interesting thing about Jason, to me, is his heritage. His family legacy is rooted from a community that accepted anyone regardless of race, color, or creed. A message important to learn and essential to take action on. So what is some advice you have for some of the students watching this about being a doer?
The most responded to message isn't, here, come get free money. The most responded to message is, hi, I'm a student and most young people don't realize this. Whether you're in high school or you're in college, people want to engage interested students. And so when you pick up the phone and you make a call or you send an email and say, I'm a student and I want to learn more about, I'm a student and I want to help with, I'm a student and can you come to my school? That's the most responded to introduction in America. And so I want students to realize that they've got a playground. They've got a playground ahead of them to do the good work that they want to do, to learn how to be better citizens, learn how to be better students, to engage different people. That's all in front of them. And I think too often we put a lot of pressure on ourselves about what an outcome should be, what does success look like. We don't need to worry about that. They can just start with what's in front of them. So if you're interested in learning why your street's named the way it was, or learn, like I did, why your community is named what it is, the perspective of the student is the most appreciated, and doors open when you begin your question that way?
To be completely transparent, I see a lot of students out there just not know where to begin.
Yep.
And they put, to your point, a lot of pressure on themselves for, just being the best they can be to get to the college of their choosing to be successful. And what you're essentially implicating is that you don't worry so much about being successful in the end game. Just start now, start today. What can you manage within the 24-hour period to get rolling, to push you in the right direction and to keep you on a pace to get you to that end goal?
Right. One of the things I think that we've done wrong, we ask a lot of young people, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we put it all in the context of some occupation, like that I don't have to worry about it until I get to that end point. And I think the better question is, what do you want to do? Like, what kind of person do you want to be? Because by thinking about it that way, right, it frees us from these occupational boundaries. And then what we want to see, the change that we want to bring into this world, can transcend. So if you want to change your community, you can do that as a police officer, you can do that as a fireman, you can do that as a mayor, you can do that as a businessman. But it's the way in which you bring yourself and what you care about, your orientation to the mission. And so I feel the same way for students. When you say, not what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, what kind of person do you want to be today?
Yeah.
Or what kind of person are you going to be tomorrow?
Not even waiting for those occupations, getting involved, at a community service level, or getting involved with nonprofits, or getting involved at their school and just supporting others. Often you don't see a lot of support on different athletic or club events, and just showing up and supporting each other and bringing the community together by being there for each other. That's essential to learn at that young age, because that's going to help amplify your impact in life and your success later on. Doers do. There's so much power in taking action. And when you have that mentality, people are going to notice. The ink was still wet on Jason's law degree when he was selected as a member of Associate Counsel for the White House under President Obama. He spent 7 years serving the president on legal, economic, and domestic policy.
I had the sort of distinct pleasure and honor to start in the Obama administration day one, 2009. And I served through the re-elect and left the administration in June of 2013. So I had this awesome run. And I remember our first staff meeting. So, the White House is a special place, and it has its symbolism and its imagery. And our first staff meeting took place in the Situation Room. And not because of the Situation Room, not because we were discussing necessarily sensitive things. It was just that's the conference room that was available. And here I was, I started in the White House at 27. So I was the youngest attorney in the office. I was the only black male we had. And so in many respects, that made me want to be reserved. There were others who had more experience. There were others who sort of were in the majority. And I felt that I should sit back and sort of give them their space, that I was lucky and honored to be there. So I remember this particular meeting where I was in the Situation Room, so you're already humbled by the aura of the room, and you've got clocks on the walls and TVs everywhere. And so the way it's laid out, there's a conference room in the middle of the table with chairs around that conference room. And then there's another row of chairs around the outside of the room. And I walk into the room and I slide into the closest chair I can find, right against the wall, firmly planting my feet, my back against the wall. And I'm like waiting to see what's going to happen. And then the boss comes, and he's running a little bit late, as he tends. And he came in to take his seat at the head of the table. And before he sat down, he sort of took in the room. He looked around and he saw people like me who were happily and comfortably sitting on the outskirts of the room. And he looked around the table and he saw these vacant seats. And he looked at us and he said, "Who are you waiting for? Take your seat at the table, because we've got work to do." And it struck me, that I'm in this room. I'm in this space. I'm here for a reason. I have this set of experiences that no one else has. Because I'm the only, because I'm the youngest, I have an experience that needs to be voiced, that needs to be presented, because if I don't, who else will? No one else has this unique set of experiences. And so this is the expectation that we have in ourselves, that you've heard, be the change that you hope to see in the world. And that's really the manifestation of it, is that there's nobody else coming. You got to take your seat at the table, because frankly, there's big problems, there's big challenges, and we need good people to do it.
Be the change. Take action. Stand up for your beliefs. Do what you think is right. Protest, sign petitions, donate and support. What do you stand for? And how will you show it?
So I just finished this documentary, which is fundamentally about people of diverse backgrounds coming together in a divided time. And I'd go and spend some time with my grandmother and collect her stories. One of the things that really moved me was a story she told me about my great-great-grandfather, who was one of the men of Quince Orchard post-slavery. You think about it. In 1868, my great-great-grandfather and other men decided that it was the right idea to buy 3 acres of land for $54 to build a school for the education of the colored children of Quince Orchard. And they erected a schoolhouse on that property, a one-room schoolhouse that at moments educated as many as 150 youth from up to 10 miles away, just to get the opportunity to participate in education. Well, being my lawyerly self and hearing this story, I kind of threw the flag and said, surely there were safer ways than in 1868 building a schoolhouse, a white brick schoolhouse on the main drag, and said, hey, we're educating colored kids here. Surely there had to be a safer way. My grandmother shut me down. And she said, Jason, there was no public education for black children in 1868, but these children needed an education. They needed an opportunity. This was the passport for a future that many had never thought about. He said, your great-great-grandfather and those other men and women, they looked around their community and they saw a need. And they were doers, and doers do. And I feel like that's what so many people need to know, is that you don't have to think about, or you don't have to know where it's all gonna go. But knowing that there's important outcomes in the action today, that we all have a responsibility, that there's an agency in building community, in building outcomes, that we don't sit on the sidelines, because then we know the outcome. But by getting involved, and by getting involved today, I talk to a lot of young people who say, I can't wait to be a leader, and I say, don't wait. Be a leader today. Be a leader in your classroom. Be a leader in your family. Have a conversation. Engage. I think the most important civil rights movement of our lifetime wouldn't have happened if someone had said that they were too young. We talk a lot about the woman who didn't take direction on that Montgomery bus, right? Everyone thinks that when I talk about that person who refused to give up her seat, I'm talking about Rosa Parks. Before Rosa Parks, there was a young woman named Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin in school had learned about civil rights. She was 15 years old, and she refused to give up her seat in the Montgomery bus boycott. And Rosa Parks says that story inspired her into action. So Claudette Colvin didn't know that Rosa Parks was going to incite an entire civil rights movement that's led to our current state of race relations. She knew what her teacher had told her, and she knew what she was experiencing wasn't right. And it sparked an entire movement. So we don't know where it will go, how far, how wide, how deep, but we know our responsibility, we know our capacity, and we know our desire and our agency in engaging. And I think that's the part that's so important for me. When I think about doers do, my grandmother said, doers are people who look around their community, they see a need, and they take action. It can take all forms.